Ayubowan, Vanakkam. I'm Vioni Dimel. This is Boston Lanka News, bringing you news, views and entertainment from Boston and USA. Reconciliation Commission and its mandate. Dr. Kannaratne Hangawatha explains. Nila De Soyza, environmentalist from Sri Lanka, continues her environment work in USA. Many international organizations and some Sri Lankan activists have expressed doubts over the effectiveness of the Reconciliation Commission. The commission, consisting of 8 members appointed by Sri Lankan President Mahinda Rajapaksa, will examine the lessons to be learned from events between February 2002 and May 2009 and make recommendations to prevent a recurrence and to promote further national unity and reconciliation among all communities. We spoke to Dr. Hangawatha to find out his views about the Reconciliation Commission.
I had the feeling when I talked with His Excellency the President that he is genuinely committed to developing the nation not only economically but socially, culturally, especially to building a harmonious society. And this commission, what I understand, would play a major role in making appropriate recommendations for the future and to how to go about making the necessary reform, both not only administratively but also legally and constitutionally.
Do you have a mandate to look into allegations or war crimes leveled against the government and the Tamil Tigers?
Not as it doesn't refer to in the terms of reference as war crime as such, because war crime has a particular interpretation, particular meaning. So I think what the terms of reference I looked at, what we have received, refer to looking at the circumstances that led to the failure of the ceasefire agreement, the peace negotiations, and who and what would be responsible for that, and also what lessons we can learn from that, which I think is important if we are to have peace in future. We can learn how to negotiate, how to have peace rather than doing something that would lead to breakdown. And also to provide methodology for restitution to any person affected by those events or their dependents, not only persons, even their dependents or others. So that may include some, of course, the victims of war, victims of violence. But I think the terms of reference also refer to that to do all that with a view to preventing any recurrence of such concerns in the future and to promote, I quote from that, to promote further national unity and reconciliation among all communities.
Why the scope of this commission is only limited for February 2002 to May 2009? Why not last 30 years?
A good question, really. Quite frankly, when I first heard in the news, this was long before I was even contacted, that there's going to be a commission that looks into the causes of ethnic disharmony, ethnic tension, etc. over the last 30 years, I kept thinking, what is the whole use of spending time on that? Because books have been written on the subject. Many articles have been published. So in a way, at least talking for myself, I'm not talking for anyone else on the committee, even not even for the committee. I think this limitation, cut-off period from 2002 onwards, has some significance. The significance is it also shows that we are only looking at the breakdown of peace. Even when so many parties tried very hard to negotiate peace, what led to the breakdown? What led to the events thereafter? Not only a breakdown of peace, it led to the events thereafter, which means the war. which led to lots of many human lives and destruction of a lot of property and destruction of social networks, the social capital, as I said before. So I think that's very important for us to understand so that we could at least prevent the recurrence of such in the future. And this is in addition to taking whatever measures we have been asked to also recommend administrative, constitutional and legal measures as well to prevent the recurrence of such events. So, in other words, to also promote harmony, social harmony and unity. So,
Thank you, Dr. Hangavatte. Nila De Soyza, who lives in Sudbury, Massachusetts, is a board member of the Friends of the Assabet River National Wildlife Refuge and works closely with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in eastern Massachusetts. As a student at the University of Colombo, she was captivated by the Singaraja forest on her first visit in 1980s, and that was the beginning of her journey as an environmentalist in Sri Lanka and now in USA. Ms. De Soyza, as somebody who is familiar with environmental issues and environmental activism both in Sri Lanka and in USA, in your view, what can people in Sri Lanka learn from the environmental movement in USA?
I'm fortunate again to be in the part of the US where the environmental movement here began. People here, of course, cite the Transcendentalists and Concord and the book Walden, written by Henry Thoreau, which was so influential in the birth of the environmental movement here, which is just 15 minutes from here. And of course, New England being the earliest settled area, there's a very engaged civic environment here. And I think I have been very impressed with the level of volunteerism and the interest in preserving not just the environment but also historic areas that I have found very useful to learn many lessons from.
Other than your interest in Singaraja forest, what are your interests and passion as an environmentalist?
I think my interest is to try to get people to spend more time outdoors so that they can appreciate the open spaces more. And I think it's better for our physical and mental health and for our communities. And of course, everywhere across the board, more and more children are spending time indoors on electronic pastimes, and adults too. And so I think part of my own commitment and interest is to provide ways in which people could spend more time outdoors enjoying nature.
Thank you, Ms. De Soyza. That concludes our news edition this week. We meet you next week with another news edition of news, views and entertainment from Boston and USA. Till then, goodbye.